That's right. I was thinking about 50.
Today we explore. First off, hello and welcome back, everyone. Back to another encouraging, inspiring, and including episode of the Achieving Unity Leadership System. It is our weekly podcast where we help turn chaos into connection and purpose into action. I am your host, Mark Intrican, founder of the Achieving Unity Leadership System, also known as the Unity Leadership System, that is available at www.achievingunity.leadershipsystem.com, which is dedicated to the leaders by improving lives through encouraging, inspiring, and including others. EII. Today, I am honored to introduce Todd Levinson and his work that is driven by a powerful mission to restore deep, meaningful human connection in a world increasingly marked by fragmentation, loneliness, and division. Through MATR, he helps individuals, organizations, and communities build stronger relationships in workplaces, colleges, and personal lives, creating environments where trust, belonging, and collaboration come true, where they can also thrive. But first, before we delve into this insightful discussion, let me briefly introduce my company, Reality Focus Dynamics, where it all began. As you can see on the first slide, Achieving Unity Leadership System podcast is about real conversations. It's for leaders navigating division, frustration, and change. It's a way for us all to make tomorrow a better place. Next slide, please. Leadership feels harder a lot of times than it should. And I think we've all seen that. There's time being a leader with others, and we don't know what the situation is with the other person, but sometimes it's challenging. It's very difficult in what we do and how we do it. So leadership sometimes is harder than it should be. Disconnection is growing, frustration is draining people and teams, good intentions are colliding with real world pressure. So we have to remember that unity, us joining together, is not a soft skill. It is a leadership strategy where we need to lead today and tomorrow. What we mean by achieving unity, words sound good, but what does it mean? It means I can't talk today, sorry. Encouraging progress without enabling dysfunction. We've heard of the dysfunctional families, heard of dysfunction. A lot of times that's just us not communicating well, not collaborating well. But what we want to do is inspire action without forcing agreement. That means not just shaking your head, yes, when you don't understand, when I don't understand, when we don't understand. We want to include voices while maintaining accountability, where we're going, what we're going to do. And in that process, we will be building better businesses, better lives, and a better world, one conversation at a time. As I mentioned, I am your host, Mark Intrican, founder of the Reality Focus Dynamics Leadership System. It has gone from what was a success formula to a full system. It's more than one formula. I work with leaders, teams, families, navigating just conflict, change, and complexity, helping us move forward with clarity, with unity, with sustainable action. I am focused, and I want us all to be focused. What is focused? Facilitating on clear, unified, sustainable execution and delivery. You can always reach me at 303 Focus. Yes, that's my phone number, 303-362-8733, or go to www.achievingunity.com. Looking forward to connecting and communicating with you each and every day. So what does focus mean? Well, it means, as I mentioned earlier, we take the FOCUSED, means facilitating tough conversations that build trust. Have you ever facilitated a team meeting, a baseball team, a family gathering? Facilitating is just making it easier, making it straightforward. So we want to facilitate on common ground, and on shared purpose. We want to be clear. That's where the C comes from. Clear communication and agreements. It's about that communication. It's about collaboration. And we want it unified. Action across differences. Doesn't matter about who we are, what we are, color of our skin, or tattoos we have. Doesn't matter. Being unified is, again, helping each other in every way. Then the S, sustainable. We want results that last, not just for today, but for tomorrow. This is building us together, one day at a time, but make it last forever. Then we want execution. This is not just talk. This is not just saying something. This is consistent, responsible action, taking what we know, moving it forward to that next level. And then delivery. With delivery, we have inspired growth. We talked about inspiration earlier. Inspired growth and lasting change. Again, there's my phone number, 303 Focused, just 303 362 8733. Looking forward to hearing from them. What can you expect? It's always, you can't make action until you find out what you're expecting. Where are you going? We're talking about real world insights and skills that are rooted in that focused approach. Use that FOCUSED, that focused approach, for compelling stories of people who have achieved unity in leadership. And we can all be leaders in everything that we do. We're not talking about just the CEO, CIO, CFO, the C-suite. We're talking about each and every one of us, personally, in our families, and professionally. Practical strategies for clear, more effective execution, and as I mentioned earlier, delivery. We want to make sure that we're delivering success. Conversations that are engaging, that are supportive, and deliver actionable value. That's what we have to have. Where's the value? That's what we want to focus on. All centered on helping us, each and every one of us, build stronger, more cohesive teams. So it's our invitation to each and every one of you. If unity matters, if being together, being a team, a family, a relationship, if that matters to you, the Achieving Unity Leadership System supports leaders through coaching and advisory engagements, helps you move forward better every day. Courses and facilitated workshops. I have a workshop tomorrow. It's a free workshop, all about Achieving Unity Leadership System. I want to hope that you'll be there. I'll be sending out emails. It'll be on the social media. Hope you can attend. We also have keynotes, leadership conferences. We'll make sure that you can attend those. Keep in touch with us. Go out to our site, markintrican.com. Get on there, sign on, talk to me. Let's keep our conversation going. Get invited to these events. Achieving Unity is the path. Yes, the path to stronger relationships, inspired leadership, and lasting change. So as I mentioned, contact us. Let's promote that clear, unified action starting now, starting today. Reach out to explore coaching, courses, workshops, or speaking engagements to promote unity leadership. Us all working together toward the same actionable goal. You can get our address, achievingunity.com, phone number. So Achieving Unity is the path, a path to stronger relationships, inspired leadership, and lasting change. Oh, you also reach us at leadership@achievingunity.com. That's our email. Just leadership@achievingunity.com. We have more conversations coming forward too. Thank you for being here today. Again, we are every week, every Wednesday, same time. Next week, we're going to be talking to Alex Shahid and Andy Intrican on leadership, protection, and trust. It's a chance for each of us to learn more about those items and how those elements show up in real life. They don't just show up in theory. We hear a lot of theory. We hear a lot of talk. But I'll be joined by Alex Shahid and Andy Intrican, one of my cousins, for a thoughtful conversation about what it means to lead responsibly, reduce unnecessary risk, and build trust before challenges escalate. We'll also touch on how having access to legal guidance and identity protection can support clarity and confidence, helping us all stay focused on relationships, decisions, forward movement, rather than being reacting to pressure. It will be our stress reliever. On Wednesday, February 18th, we'll be asking an important question. Who cares for the caregivers? I'll be joined by Steve Cohen for a thoughtful conversation about redefining resilience in healthcare and leadership. Steve brings deep insight into the pressure caregivers, leaders, and support professionals face every day, and how that resilience must go beyond endurance to include support, trust, and sustainable care. This conversation is about honoring those who serve others, understanding the cost of constant responsibility, and exploring how leadership can better protect the people who carry so much for so many. March 18th, we'll also be joined by Teresa Cezarek to explore technology and management solutions. More on that later, but always come back and join us each and every week. So today, I am very excited. I've talked to Todd a few times. He's an exciting person, a great path ahead of him. His name is Todd Levinson, a social connection strategist, speaker, and co-founder of MATR. It's a process that helping us all. It's a tech startup focused on helping people build meaningful relationships at work, in school, and everyday life. Things that Todd's doing, we're parallel in how we want to help each other. He's drawing on experience spanning workforce policy, community building, and conflict resolution. Make sure that we know and see that Todd is dedicated to addressing social fragmentation and reducing political and cultural divides through practical, human-centered solutions. His work brings moral and political psychology with real-world application, offering insight into how stronger relationships can drive collaboration, can drive understanding, and improve the lasting impact. But before we go and talk to Todd, let me show you one more thing, and I hope you'll use it, which is his QR code. So you get out to his site, here's his QR code. Use it. Grab it now. Take your phone up there, your camera, take a picture of that QR code, go out to Todd's site, get in contact with him. Get in contact with him also through LinkedIn. Make that communication. Let's tie it together going forward and show the experience that Todd can bring to us. Well, that's enough of me talking. Let's bring on the man, Mr. Todd Levinson. Todd, how are you?
I'm doing well, Mark. Great to be here with you.
It's exciting. I'm so glad you could make it here today. It's a wonderful process, and it's a way that we can all build together in what we do and how we do it. So tell me more. Let's invite you a little bit about what you do, how you do it, and going forward.
Yeah, MATR is a platform for people to essentially create and maintain and strengthen the relationships in their lives. There's a lot of conversation in the news, across social media around the increasing loneliness and social isolation in our country and in the world. And that's true. And I think there's just a larger social disconnection. You don't have to necessarily believe that you're lonely to feel like you're not being seen, known, understood, that you don't have meaningful, fulfilling conversations where you open yourself up, where someone supports you, where you allow yourself to be vulnerable. A lot of us go through our everyday lives in connection with people, whether it's at work, in school, if you're a student, and the various family, friends, right? And you do your catch-ups. How you doing this week? What's been going on? How's the weather? Right? The typical everyday questions. And maybe sometimes you might share or hear a little gossip or talk about another person in your life. But how many of us take time on a regular basis to talk about the things that are most important outside of ourselves in our lives and inside of ourselves, and really feel that deeper connection that we have when we're vulnerable and open to another human being and let them see more of ourselves, or talk about something that really inspires us. We want to bring that to people's everyday lives. A lot of us connect digitally. We're big proponents of course, meeting in person. Mark, I'd love to sit down for a coffee with you, but the fact is we're across the country from each other. And so there's a lot of connection that happens at a distance virtually. But oftentimes we get sucked into social platforms where you're direct messaging, you're commenting, you're posting. Um, but you're not really conversing and deeply connecting. And so our platform is a way for people to do that on a regular basis.
That's so true, Todd. And I love what you're talking about because, as you mentioned, have haven't you noticed, or do you notice how often people will talk about connection? Sure, it's in their conversation, yet a lot of them still feel disconnected, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I hear it all the time. I'm not understood by anyone. No one really knows me. I'm in conversations, but I'm not being seen and really heard, or I never get a chance to really share about myself. And there are questions, there are the kinds of conversations that can get you there. That's what happens on the platform is these are facilitated kind of choose your own adventure conversations. They give you a chance to open up in that way so that you truly feel connected. That it's not just a buzzword, it's not just a desire, but we all know that we've all been a part, at least at some point in our lives, in those conversations where you get the little butterflies in your chest. You feel warm inside, maybe a little scared even, but you're opening up, and it's the kind of conversation you don't want to end, right? There's a kind of substantive feeling inside of your heart, inside of your soul, if that's what you believe, um, when you connect to someone in that way, and we all know we've all had at least one of those experiences. We know how much we enjoy them. We know how meaningful they are. We know how they bring us closer to other people. Um, but how regularly do we make it a part of our lives? And so we're on a mission to make sure that that happens. That it happens in the workplace. We're in connection with people in the workplace for half of our lives. That it happens in friendships, in family. If you don't have friendships, we'll help you develop friendships. Um, so that, our mission is based on a question. What if every human had amazingly close relationships in their lives? And
And that,
if that was a world we could live in, I think we'd all want to live in that world, right?
well, why can't we? Todd, I like what you're saying because that's where we drive also. Why
Yeah.
can't we live in that world?
Well, we could go on and on for a while on that.
So true.
I think we live busy lives. Um, and in some ways don't prioritize this kind of connection. So I think that's one piece, right? You know, People will have health goals and they'll get to the gym and they'll measure their progress on their weight or their size or how many repetitions they can do. In work, we have goals. It might be sales goals, revenue goals. Um, but how many of us have social goals? Have goals? How many do social relational workouts, on a regular
Yes.
basis in the way that we prioritize other things that are all great too? Walking, exercising, lifting, improving yourself in the workplace professionally. These are all great things. And we work those muscles. Um, but for whatever reason, even though your social well-being is the biggest driver of your happiness long term in life and a huge driver, if not one of the biggest driver in your physical health and longevity, as well as, of course, mental. Even though studies bear that out time and again, we don't work the muscle for whatever reason. We don't prioritize in this busy life, that we
And if
have.
we don't work, and if we don't work that muscle, sorry to interrupt you, but if we don't work that muscle, what happens to it?
Yeah, for sure. No, it weakens you, and not only does it weaken, but listen, I have a 7-year-old daughter, right? And
Mhm.
there's a lot of capacity building, skill building that goes on in being a parent. Um, And one of the things that I see again and again in her is that if she doesn't feel capable, she won't be excited to do something. And when our skills drop in a certain area, not only do we not feel confident doing it, but then we go move even further from getting practice. We don't have strong motivation to want to do it. But then when the instant my daughter will see herself capable of doing something, it's like the door opens up, right? And she just wants to do it all the time. It feels good. And so when our social skills, not just our social skills of communicating effectively, but our social skills in relating meaningfully and deeply weaken, we feel more hesitant to go there. And we develop a set of norms or expectations around ourselves and our relationships. Oh, I couldn't possibly ask that question. Ooh, I couldn't possibly bring up that topic. Oh, I don't know what he or she will feel if I say that or I want to talk about that. And we push ourselves further and further away from the thing that most enriches, our insides, our soul, the meaning and fulfillment in our life. So yes, I just wanted to echo, yeah, the skills go down and then the motivation goes down with it.
I'm so with you. And there's sometimes that I feel, and I'd love to have your feedback. I talk with people, and sometimes a situation comes about where they've had a real life situation where something's occurred in their life. Somebody has said they're going to do something, they bought a car, whatever, and the salesperson says, "Well, I'm going to fix this all for you." And they buy the car, they drive away. The salesperson doesn't follow through. The service department doesn't do anything. And the person who bought the car doesn't want to question it because then they feel bad. Do you, what do you feel about those kind of situations? Do you work with that kind of situation?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, relationships matter in every place in our life, and one of the things that our platform, um, some of the functionality that will be to come over the course of this year, are actually helping with some of those follow-ups because you know I think we're at a point in time when we want to move from transactional relationships to meaningful and transformative relationships. And transactional relationships are, we're done here. You got what you want. I got what I want. Let's move on, right? Meaningful relationships or where someone shows some sense of caring about you and of really listening to you. And so, Mark, you and I might have conversation right now, and Matter will help me in the future and say, hey, remember Mark brought up that situation he had maybe at the car dealership. Maybe it was a little challenging. Have you even asked him about that recently? In our busy lives, I think we would love to be the optimal friend, the optimal relationship partner, right? The optimal business partner. But we live busy lives, and not all of us are adept at keeping a calendar, a memory of everything that we've talked about in the last 2 to 3 weeks with the people that we've connected with. Um, and so Matter not only will facilitate those deeper relationships, it'll also just help you keep track of, you know, what you've talked about and how you can continue to nurture and reach out to the people who you've been in contact with. And it matters.
And
It matters. People will come and give you more business. They will refer you more business when you have shown them the little things that show that you care and are in relationship with them, not just doing a transaction with them.
show that it matters. I love your website, that MATR. That helps people remember. I'm big on acronyms, but that they do matter. And I mean, you mentioned your daughter, a great example, but how many of us, even myself at times, if I know more about it, if I'm comfortable with the process, and I'm always one of those that's continue to process improvement.
Yeah.
And there's just times that it's difficult. You mentioned vulnerable or vulnerability.
Yeah.
That is major because sometimes when we feel vulnerable, we don't want to go there, do we?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So what do we
Yeah.
do?
Yeah. Well, I've made it a habit, and I sometimes will share this openly in conversation, and I'll just say, listen, I'm a very direct person. I'm a very open person, and I may directly ask you things, and if it makes you feel uncomfortable, you don't want to talk about, it, you just let me know. But I just want to give you the opportunity to share it. And it kind of opens a door. It lets them know what to expect, right? Because I get a lot of times where people will do, Mark, exactly what you said. I'll be in conversation, people, whether it's in a professional business context, whether it's in a personal context, they start to tell you something, or you ask them a question and they speak in vagaries. I don't know if anyone, who's listening has ever had that. You ask them a question and you're giving them the space to really share openly, but either they just talk in these big general words without getting into real concrete experience, or they
Nothing
kind of
measurable.
start to go there. They start to go there, and you see they just stop. And I've made it a habit in my life to ask and just say, "Hey, you were about to say something right there. Well, what did you want to say? Tell me what's on your mind." Yeah, and it opens that door just a little bit because they say, first of all, he saw me, right? He noticed, right? He was paying
He was
attention,
seen.
present enough to notice that I was going to say something. And he's also giving me a signal that it's okay to share. Because sometimes people don't share, not because not because they're worried per se about sharing or how you'll react. They just don't know if you want to hear it, right? They just have doubts in their mind of whether they could really go there, whether that's part of the norms that we have right now in this one-on-one relationship that we have, Mark, right here, whether we can really go there. And by just letting them know, hey, I'm present, I saw something, I know you wanted to say something, and I'm okay hearing it. In fact, I want to hear it. It opens that door enough that 9 times out of 10, someone's going to tell you. Um, and that then sparks a whole nother level of a conversation and a connection that you have with somebody.
And that connection brings positivity, doesn't it? Gets them into a more positive mode, their attitude. It's much
Yeah.
more positive because a lot of times, one of the things that I work with and a lot of the teams, people that I work with, they're on the negative. They are looking for something wrong in the process. Back to auto dealership, they're going to say, well, they're not going to fix it anyway. If I ask them, it'll just
Mhm.
start an argument
Mhm.
instead of taking what I'm hearing from you, Todd, that says, well, let's go ahead and ask. That's
Yeah.
what we need to do. We need to go ahead and talk about it in
Mhm.
all the things in our life. And there's times, even as you mentioned, we become vulnerable, but can't vulnerability be positive as well as challenging?
Yeah, it could be positive and challenging. Yeah, well, there's a couple things that I want to say about that. So in terms of feeling positive, the reason we called our company Matter is because we feel that it is one of the most basic foundational feelings that people want to have. That's number one. A feeling that I have value in this world just by being me. And for better or for worse, I think for better, we're designed as social beings. And yes, maybe inside of their own mind, a person can feel, I matter. I know I matter because I personally, individually, for myself, say that I matter. But the truth is that often when we think about mattering, we think about mattering to whom? We think about mattering in the context of relationship because we're social beings. Do I have worth and value in other people's importance in other people's lives? And so when you are able to open up vulnerably and have someone here see, understand you, and be present hearing that from you and engage in conversation and ask you questions, you get those moments of feeling, I matter. I matter enough for this person to listen to what I'm saying and to ask me more and to want to know more. And so fundamental, I believe, is a feeling we matter. And I believe we do that very much in the context of relationships. And when we get to experience that, Mark, to your punchline, yes, we feel a whole lot more positive and free, right? And not weighed down by the walls and the disconnection and the retreat, or the self-censoring or the lack of authenticity and the posturing and the trying to present in a way that might not feel authentic. All of that takes energy and grinds at you. Now, challenge, absolutely. And in fact, I would even say, Mark, that challenge often leads to greater connection. I'll tell you a story.
Yes.
When I was in my mid-teens, we were as a family, it was my mother, my father, and I have three siblings, so four of us kids. We were kind of seen from the outside as a Brady Bunch family, as this just family that, we say I love you, we hug, we kiss. And I loved my family relationships. At the same time, some of being positive all the time, or projecting positivity sometimes can lead to sweeping things under the rug, to not acknowledging challenges. And so at a time in my life in my mid-teens when I started to get a sense of things unspoken that were weighing people down and affecting people within the family, I went and got my siblings together and I said, listen, when mom and dad go into their bedroom, as they do every night at some point in the night, we're going to go in there and we're going to have a family meeting. And we're going to share about the things we never share about. And we're going to talk about the things that
Wow.
challenge us. And we had our first family meeting. Now, Mark, it wasn't all, roses. Let's just say that. When you first, after not having any habit of this, no norms around this, and you share the challenges that you're having, there's defensiveness, there's back and forth. You could imagine.
Little
But
fear,
yeah, go ahead.
a little bit of fear also.
Beer. Oh, for sure. Yeah, I saw the looks on I'm the oldest, so my younger siblings especially, they're like, what are we gonna go do? What do you mean? Um, but again, like working the muscle, just like someone who hasn't worked out in a while, maybe they're not feeling strong, maybe they're overweight, maybe whatever physical ailments they have, and they want to do that first walk, and it's like uncomfortable. But every
Yes.
time you do it, it gets more comfortable, you get more capable, and you do it better in collaboration with others. And it became a series of meetings. And even though there were difficult feelings in that first meeting, and even though we never stopped ourselves from opening up those feelings in future meetings, working through all of those things in progressive meetings over time made us so much more closer as a family. And to know that we had
That.
an outlet to say, hey, can we do a family meeting? We haven't done one in a while, and I think it's time to have one. To know that there was an
Wow.
outlet greatly enhanced. I'm not going to say it made our family perfect, but the degree of openness and authenticity and the kinds of things we could discuss together, about each other or about other things in our lives, open up tremendously, right? And so I think, yes, challenging. Is vulnerability challenging? Yes. Is there fear about going there? Absolutely. But even when the relationship and the conversation is challenging, if you stay with it, and you really listen and you really speak authentically and from the heart, you get through that. You can move through it, and the closeness you have on the other end and the meaning in that relationship you have on the other end is beyond words. It's
Huge.
the stuff that we live for, I think.
It is. And I think what I'm hearing you say, Todd, is that first step, that ability to remove that fear and accept that vulnerability and take that first step and make it happen.
Yeah.
Now, as I'm listening to you, it seems that maybe your work grew out of seeing maybe some of that fragmentation up close. What
Oh,
first
yeah.
made your mission personal for you?
Well, I talked about that moment, and that moment was sparked by hearing. I was in a youth group meeting that also brought family in, and my mother was there, and I heard her say something, and I could just hear beneath the surface of the words some angst. And I love my mom. I wanted to do something about it, but it actually came earlier. I grew up Jewish, and my grandparents on my mom's side were Holocaust survivors, and so developed a really strong sense of identity around Judaism, as you might imagine. Now, when they moved to the United States from Eastern Europe, they didn't practice strongly. It's not that they weren't Jewish and didn't do some things, but they didn't practice strongly. But later in life, particularly my grandfather felt a lot of guilt around that. Um, and became a Orthodox Jew, strongly practicing Jew. Um, And that created some tensions, shall we say, within the family. He was strongly
That,
practicing. My mom and our family wasn't as strongly practicing. We did do some things, of course. We would go for Shabbat or Sabbath dinners. We would do things, but not to the level he did. And this change and going on a different path created frictions. One small example of a variety of them. On the Sabbath, what we call Shabbat in Judaism, in Hebrew, um, you're not supposed to do any work. You're not supposed to put on lights or nothing that takes energy. And so one thing you can't do is drive a
oh,
car.
okay.
And so we would go for Shabbat dinners, but we would drive because we weren't strongly Orthodox practicing Jews. And at one point, my grandfather didn't want us to come to Shabbat dinners unless we didn't drive, right?
Wow.
Um, and so that's just one example of the kind of frictions that would occur. There were more than that, even personality kind of, things that came out. Um, and my grandmother helped to negotiate that away, but um, because of how much that would affect our ability to share in that holiday together or that regular practice together. But when I, as a young teen, this was 2 or 3 years prior to the family meeting, I shared when I heard about these frictions and saw them, um, what it led me to do was to reach out to at a dinner one time after everyone left the dinner table, all our family, extended family members. I asked my grandfather, when did you become deeply religious and how did it occur? And that sparked a 15-year conversation about life, his history in the Holocaust and beyond the Holocaust, his feelings about his religion, um, just talking about everything one might find important in life. And, it was started based on a difference, right? It wasn't started based on a commonality. This conversation was started based on friction, but what it developed into was one of the deepest relationships I've ever had in my life, my grandmother included, because I would go there, for my lunches just on my own as a grandchild, wanting to know his grandparents. And they were, while they were alive, my best, two of my best friends in life. So yes, I've had a very real personal experience of what happens when you get beyond the pleasantries and the normal conversation and ask about some of the more fundamental parts of someone's life. That could be fun, by the way, too. You don't only have to
I
ask
would,
about serious, difficult things, but also fun things. But they're all ways of learning about somebody that they haven't told you yet.
and it sounds like to me, Todd, and help me out here, but it sounds like you were there to be, to listen,
Yeah.
for him to be heard. He
Yes.
could talk about things that he felt that it may not have been comfortable about with other people
Yeah.
previously. And I think, like you mentioned earlier, to open that door so that he can feel comfortable
Yeah.
about talking about these things, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, I would tell my mom and others in our family, some of his other kids, about times that my grandfather would break down crying in front of me, telling me, deep, deep feelings and memories that he had. And they wouldn't even believe that that was the grandfather that they knew, right? Or the father, right? But when you open the door and like you said, you're just really genuinely curious and you come from a caring place, um, people will share and they will ask too, by the way. Obviously, I was a grandchild, he was a grandfather. I did more asking. But my grandfather became also very curious about me, my own practices, my own beliefs over time. Um, and even though we led different lives and walked down different paths, we found so much commonality in the essence of being a human being. I remember toward the end of his life, him just, he had physical ailments and just being beaten down physically. He had to be on dialysis. He had heart issues. The medicines
Wow.
created kidney issues. He had to be on dialysis. It was just wore on him, long stints in the hospital. And I remember him coming home the last time he spent at his house, and I went to go see him after. I mean, just all the physical barriers were just gone. We use often our physical bodies to kind of tie in emotions. And he broke down and told me how much he was going to miss this world that God created, right? And he started talking about the flowers and the trees and the animals and just all of what he saw, the beauty of life. And I loved nature as well, right? Now he comes at it from a Jewish, believer point of view, right? That's not where I come at it from. But our shared awe of the beauty of life, we could share in that moment. And so, people, yes, they will share more with you, but they'll also be more curious about you. And you'll find deep, deep parts of yourself and life that you connect on, even if practiced in
Yes.
a different way.
And the way you help people. And it seems to me that connection and partnership and human development are themes that guide you in your work and maybe in your personal life as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, I don't know what Mark your experiences have been, but have you seen times in the kind of corporate sphere, in the workplace, where you've seen, I don't know, maybe disconnected environments, disconnected
Huge.
relationships, and
Mhm.
connected environments and connected workplaces? And what have you seen in the difference between those? What gets people there, and also the impact that it has on how people work together? What's been your experience that way?
There is a lot of it out there. And I bring this up quite often in talking about your grandfather. There's a good example. I can tell just by the way you talk about him, he's a great person, but
Hmm.
he had a history. He had things that happened to him in the past, which developed, just like me, my culture,
Yes.
just like you, our learnings. So I strongly grow people in the point of achieving unity through the power, and I do mean power, of encouraging, inspiring, and including others personally and professionally. Because too many times we prejudge people. We
Mm.
look at them and say, oh, well, maybe they could say, well, he's Jewish. They could say, well, he's this, she's that. They prejudge just based on something, again, from our culture, from our learning. So I'm going back to what you were talking about. Why don't you ask?
Yeah.
Why don't you say something? What is it that's holding you back? And as I mentioned earlier, oh, well, they've got too many tattoos, the color of their skin, the age, their income level. A lot of that puts that fear. A lot of people don't
Yeah.
want to call it fear, but a lot of times it is, which I call false evidence about reality, because I deal with reality all the time.
Mhm.
That fear of being able to talk or that ability to listen. Because
Yeah.
sometimes that pause and that ability to open that door to listening, can't that bring across a lot of people that weren't there before?
Yeah. 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 Yeah, if you saw my grandfather walking down the street, there would be all sorts of things that would be projected about him, right? He was just visibly very Jewish. The long beard, the black coat, the black pants, the black hat, right? The what we call tzitzit, the little strings coming out of your,
The culture we saw on TV in some
yeah.
ways, right?
Exactly. And so instantly you see this person and you project, all sorts of things. I would even say sometimes when you hear beliefs or positions, it's the same way. On its surface, beliefs are just a set of words, right? But somehow they cause us to react so strongly rather than to try to understand the story behind it. And I'll give you another example of that with my grandfather. He said to me one time, he said, I think I had asked him if I could bring a friend to a Shabbat dinner. And he asked me if he was Jewish. And we got into a whole conversation about, why would it matter, right? And he told me, he said, I don't have any animosity toward people who are not Jewish. And I work with people who are not Jewish in the everyday life in a professional way. Um, but I feel in terms of bringing a non-Jew into my home, I just have a lot of discomfort around it. Now, on its face, I could imagine so many people saying something. He's racist, he's biased, he's prejudiced, he's closed-minded, he's all the things you could imagine someone saying. You're not going to invite a non-Jew into your home. But when you think about the trauma of losing your whole family because you were Jewish, including non-Jews who you thought were friends, neighbors, right? Who weren't there to support you, right?
So
Um,
true.
and all the things that he went through in terms of, Nazi labor camps and then escaping into Russia and getting sent to Siberia to their work camp. I mean, over and over and over
Wow.
again,
What he
right?
saw.
Right. And then you put that in context of him saying this. This is just a human being with a set of emotions. Now, do I live my life that way? No. Did I work over time in little ways to get him more comfortable? Of course I did. But did I berate him, prejudge him just because of this discomfort that he had? No, I didn't. Because I could at least put on the hat. Now, would I have hoped that if I even went through those horrible things that I still would have more? Of course, I would hope that. But do I still understand how that could be a natural human response to what he experienced? Of course I understand. Of course I understand. So I'm going to work with my grandfather as he is right now and know his story and keep the dialogue
That's
going.
wow. That's so impressive. And that you're helping others do this also, Todd, to be
Yeah.
able to open and be able to talk about it. And with that essence that you have of being able to listen. And if we all did that a little bit more, it would open up so many more doors
Hmm.
because the communication and collaboration, as I call it, is the key. They are the keys to unlocking the door to success. And I
Hmm.
see so much success that you brought for yourself, but also for your grandfather
Hmm.
in that ability to talk about the past. And then that ability to say, should we let someone else into our home that is not going to appreciate the celebration that we're having at that time, right?
Mm.
Not just that there's someone else coming over, but as you were mentioning, it's your Sunday. It was your quiet time, your Jewish belief, and to bring someone else into it that's not familiar, couldn't that bring a little bit of fear to each of us?
Yeah, I think some, listen, I think some people um relish that. So there are people in life who seek di naturally, just in their bones, seek diversity. I think what's important is that, and you said something very important, we're shaped by some combination of our personal history and our memories, and then who we just innately are as a human being, right? From a young age, I would just be on the outskirts watching people, observing people, trying to understand. It was like when I was a little kid, right? I don't know that I was nurtured that way. I don't think I will. I just had that instinct. Others have an instinct of, telling jokes and making fun and getting people to laugh. That it comes just so naturally. And there's some blend, each of us, there's some blend of who we just innately, authentically are, and then that personal history that develops how I'm behaving and thinking and approaching life in this moment. Um, and and so what I want to say is that for some people, that they gravitate to that diversity, they gravitate to the newness, but for other people, they don't. Now, maybe it's based on experiences that they had, like my grandfather had experiences that might have closed him down in some ways. Sometimes it might be just something innate where someone has a stronger preference for familiarity, for commonality. Um, we're just designed in different ways. And there's, obviously taken to an extreme where it produces harm out there in the world. Of course, there is, of course, a place to judge and to push back. At the same time, you know, these differences don't often move to that level. And so these differences are positive, right? The quest
They
for
can be.
they can be, right? The quest for commonality and something shared, that's a great quest. The quest for something new and different and innovative and so that's a quest too. That has value. And so, yes, for some people, it's a risk. It feels fearful. They feel fear because it's not natural to them, and or they've had experiences that make them shy away from it. Um, all of that is true. Um, but that's why on the platform we do our best to lower the stakes and create a shared set of expectations and to let people start off slow, right? You're not going to be telling someone your deepest, darkest secret in the first moment on Matter. You get to, you know, create your own adventure. You get three questions. Mark, you and I were having a Matter conversation. Three questions would pop up, and you'd pick one that felt the most relevant and comfortable for you. And it would start you off with a little disclosure, right? A little sharing. And then I would pick, and then you would pick, and then I would pick. And over the course of multiple conversations, we might get to more difficult to express things, but we would have built a sense of trust and openness and a way of talking back and forth that would then make us more comfortable asking a deeper, more revealing question. And so, yes, it can open up fear, but there are also ways to go about it that can create confidence and comfort.
That is so true. And we're getting close to getting ready to close, but I want to kind of touch on what you're saying because
Yeah.
a lot of things that we talk about is us talking and us sharing in that process. But have you also noticed patterns, how conflict escalates when people stop listening to another person?
Mm-hmm.
How conflict can escalate and generally escalates when people stop listening to one another. Maybe they've had that road, that path, but when they've stopped listening, what happens to conflict at that time?
Yeah, I mean, if you imagine at the level of at the very superficial level, we can have all sorts of different conflicts, right? A conflict in how we should use the money within the business, a conflict of how we should celebrate holidays, like with Shabbat, right? A conflict, all the on the surface, right? But if you take the time to get to know where each person's, let's say, position, right, where it comes from, and you go one layer down, well, what makes this important to you? What's important about doing it this way? Okay, now they're going to express a deeper level. Okay, you shared that. I'm getting it. I'm getting it. But can you share a little more? What about that makes you feel this way? And you go down another level, and then you go down another level. And then at some point you get to a level where you find shared motives and values and approaches um, that can help you move past whatever at the top level, at the mundane level, is a conflict. So, to your point, if we just stay at that level of the conflict and we prejudge what it's all about and we prejudge who the person is because of the position they're taking, yes, conflict will escalate.
It
Absolutely.
does. That's so true. That ability, and as you're saying, when they go down another level, but when they go down that level, a lot of times by that discussion, by you listening, by me listening, by any of us listening, it helps them rise.
Mm,
By going down that next level, helps them open up some doors, opens
mhm.
up that communication, doesn't have to. I get chills as I talk about this. It kind of helps lift them up to where they'd like to be, as we talked about in the beginning, wanting to be heard.
Yeah.
They want to have that feeling, help them grow, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And let them be
It's,
part of your own growth too, right? It's,
oh, it's
have
not even,
an equal relationship back and forth, where you're vulnerable, they're vulnerable, you have imperfections, they have imperfections. You see this all the time in relationships, dating relationships, workplace relationships, the expectation that someone has to be perfect or can't make mistakes. You come with your imperfections, they come with theirs. You work through that if you approach it with curiosity and openness and a sense of caring and a desire for something bigger and better for the two of you.
yes. And that's that thing too, because we've all had our problems And I joke about my name should be in the Guinness Book of World Records about the person who's made the most mistakes.
Yeah.
Because we all make them. And I know sometimes we think, well, I think, gosh, I sure made a bunch of them.
Mm.
But that ability to accept each other because or with our mistakes
Hmm.
is huge, right?
Hmm. Hmm. Oh,
Being able to
I
talk about,
loved my grandfather's. I mean, this is not a mistake, but the difference, I loved my grandfather's faith. You know, I didn't have the same faith, but to see the level of faith where when he could hardly walk, he would still walk to temple, right? And so that was beautiful to me. I didn't have to believe the same thing that he did. So differences, mistakes, challenges, clashes, it could be a source of great inspiration and appreciation for sure.
that is so true. That is so awesome. Well, Todd, tell me quickly, we went over your website, your Matter, www.matter. Let's see,
Today.
was it today? So,
Yeah.
because today matters. I love that. I saw that. www.matr.today.
Mhm.
Tell us more. People want to talk to you. How do they
Yeah,
reach
yeah,
you?
they can email me at todd@matter.today if they want to be, if they want to get onto the platform and start having great conversations, reach out to us. If you have an organization, a business, and you want to get your members or your staff, your workforce to connect more deeply because they have a remote environment or they don't have a strong culture, or you want to increase retention by increasing the strength of the relationships in the company. Um, we're open to schools, to companies, to organizations, or just to individuals who want to connect more deeply.
That's beautiful. Wow, Todd. Thank you so much for joining us today. You have opened up more doors for a lot of people. What you do by sharing your insight, your experience, and I feel your heart today.
Mhm.
Your work is truly a powerful, I mentioned powerful before, reminder that unity, that our unity, the unity that each of us needs, as you're talking about with friends, family, relationships, grows through intentional conversation, partnership, and that courage to engage across any differences that we might see. Being like your grandfather grew up in a different world. I appreciate the clarity and hope you brought the clarity that you brought into this discussion. That it's excellent. So to our listeners, again, thank you for being part of this conversation. Be willingness to reflect, listen, and grow. And please remember to take what resonates with you to Todd. Make sure that he's able to contact you, or you're able to contact him so he can contact you at www.matr.today. Find out more and connect with him on LinkedIn, every way you can. Todd, any closing remarks you'd like to share with us?
No, no, just, if you want to be part of the mission, part of the movement, reach out. We'd love to work with you, collaborate, support you, in mattering today through building amazing relationships.
Building amazing relationships. I love that. And that's what unity is all about. We
Mhm.
are on the same page. So achieving unity resonates with you also. Everyone, the listeners, everyone that listens to us later, it's here today, reach out, connect with Todd, connect with me. Let's build. Let's continue to grow. But until next time, let's all continue to transform those complexities into execution. Let's turn sometimes what we think is chaos into connection. Let's make our purposes into action. And let us continue, each of us, achieving unity. www.achievingunity.com or call me. You know my number, 303 Focus, 303-362-8733. Work with Todd, work with myself. Let's work because we can stay focused on turning that chaos into connection as we all continue achieving unity. And as Todd says, what matters today? www.matr.today. We can build this together. We appreciate it. Todd, thank you again for being here. I've learned a lot. And for me, even to say, help me out with the word, the Sunday,
Shabbat,
Shabbat, Shabbat,
Shabbat, Shabbat. It's actually
Shabbat,
Friday night to Saturday night in the Jewish
Friday
religion.
night to Saturday. I've learned something today, and now you've intrigued me, so I'm going to go learn.
Yeah.
I'm going to go find out more about this. This is excellent. So, again, this has been Mark Intrican with Achieving Unity Leadership System, reminding you that life is truly what we make it. So let us help people feel seen, heard, and supported through everyday moments that truly matter. Don't forget to matter, MATR dot today, because we want to make sure that we all matter and make life awesome together in unity. Again, thank you all. Thank you, Todd Levinson. It's been an awesome talking with you and a huge learning experience. Thanks for your message of helping others show up for one another as we continue to see your work at the intersection of dialogue, connection, and social healing through your time and your commitment. It's appreciated. Thank you all. Hope to see you all again next week. But until then, cheers.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Todd, that was great. Thank you. I just have